Well, the Blue Beetle came and went. It was an uphill battle from the get-go. I mean, it's a character most people don't know. The DC properties have struggled from the beginning. And just, of course, you can go through all the mess and the dumb decisions here and there and panicking early and over and over again. Yeah, and so here you have this movie that's basically a standalone film. Within that, there's passing mentions of other things, but and if there were more scenes that it did connect it more, they cut them out. And all I had heard that there was some dialogue about Supergirl and the Flash. Briefly in there, and I'm sure that was pretty easy to take that out. This business of Ben Affleck being I think that's total BS. You could understand it. It sounded like the type of joke they would have done, but and I realize the credibility of James Gunn is a bit shaky at best at the moment, due to contradictions here and there. But that one probably wasn't true. And so the film worked as a standalone film, and that's why, to try to do some kind of promotion for these films that you cut off at the knees when you announce they're part of a franchise that no longer exists. And so that's a big problem for all of them that have come out. So how better would they have done had that not been the case? We'll never really know, but in some instances, probably not all that much. The Flash movie just had the crap of Ezra Miller in there, and there was nothing you could do about it other than cancel it and try to salvage it later with a new actor. But just at the looks of it, they ran out of money and couldn't even finish their special effects and all that. Now, Blue Beetle, there's certain models here one should follow. This was apparently much cheaper than certainly the Flash and whatnot, and yet it looked all right. Now, I'm more forgiving of CGI that other people scoff at and whatnot, but it was fine. For as far as the effects go and everything, I thought it was fine for the story they were telling, and you could do a lot with that type of budget. And similar to the first Shazam movie, which was done on the cheap, and that's why it didn't lose the money. It didn't become a smash hit or anything. But I really liked that film. The second one is weaker, much weaker than that one. But it didn't deserve to fail as bad as it did. But, well, there you are. But you've done on the cheap there. You're in a safer territory where at least you don't lose money. But I don't know that this one will make enough to do that. I don't know, but it's still you can't. This exorbitant spending that's been going on is one of the many problems, and there's quite a few in entertainment today. But anyway, as the movie goes, and with the first trailer, I was surprised. I had no idea that I didn't know if they would include the backstory of Blue Beetle, because it'd be very tempting and easy to just say that there were never even mention the other Beetles, and it just starts with Jaime. He comes across this strange scarab and he gets the powers and all that. But no, they did, and they're all in there. I mean, well, they're not appearing there, but their stories are told and how it happened and all this sort of stuff. And it gives it elements that they can expand on in the lore of Blue Beetle as they go forward, if they get the chance, which looks like probably not. As far as Zolo, the Cobra Kai kid, he's fine. He's a good-looking guy and all this stuff. I don't think they gave him enough to prove himself within the story. The suit does everything. There's an interesting element there that seemed like it was almost there, and then they just sort of dropped it and then kind of reversed it at the end, where the suit is this. It's this alien military device, And in the comics, it's part of this race that's conquering and stuff, and they're enemies of the Green Lanterns and all this sort of stuff. And Jaime's like, I don't want any part of that, you know. And so the idea is that Jaime's good nature and he's a wholesome guy ends up dominating the suit, and that turns things around. Now, at the ending, it's understandable. At the position, Jaime's had enough, and so then the suit pulls him in. You know, I just don't think the suit would, not at that point. And then over time, you can say where Jaime ultimately dominates the suit, his will takes it over, and it basically rewrites it so it's not, you know, a killing machine anymore and that kind of thing. If there was a sequel to get into the origins of the Scarab and all that, which I would assume they would pursue that, you know. And then of course the story, well, what happened to the other Beetles, and why didn't it work for Ted Kord, and all that type of stuff. Obviously some departures from the comics, but then the comics themselves do departures all the time because they're constantly rebooting. Gee, I wonder why. But the movie, I didn't hate it. I don't see it as a bad movie. I don't see it as all that great. You know, there's stumbles here and there, and the Batman is a fascist line is exactly what I thought it was when I saw the trailer. That's in character for the George Lopez character. And George Lopez is the one who really just looks, he's the one who really worked hard at his character. Some of the, like Susan Sarandon, I think that was a paycheck. Seemed pretty disinterested. I think Sharon Stone was supposed to play the role, and I don't know what happened. Didn't want to do it and backed out, and then they got Susan Sarandon to do it. I don't know. I thought she might be a gender-swapped version of Ted Kord's uncle, but she's actually Ted Kord's sister in this one. And I'm not familiar if Ted Kord had a sister. He has a daughter in this story, but this is pushing it forward, so I suppose I don't know if the comics ever had that either for Ted Kord, but you know. But you know, you get the cool Blue Beetle bug flying around in there, and then that's nice, and all that's still there. And so had it been more successful, we might have gotten more into it, but it's not a well-known character, and there just wasn't enough here of pizzazz or excitement to drag you in. And people say, oh, they're trying to rip off Spider-Man and Iron Man, and you know, and that sort of thing, and that's pretty much kind of how it looks, you know. But as far as you needed something more, you know, plot gravitas to it, it's like, oh my God, this happened in it, and it's so cool and stuff. Constantly going on about Latino representation, and representation overall, it's just going to doom your film. Because every time that's done, almost every time, not always, it's just, oh, the film sucks, huh? And you're trying to shame people into the seats, because if you don't, then you're some sort of racist, sexist, whatever. And that's never worked. It's been, that idea, or that pursuit for films has failed every time. It's just not going to work. In fact, it's to the detriment of it, because sometimes the property is not really that bad, but everybody thinks that's what they're going to get. They're going to get lectures about whatever, and you really don't. There's a few lines here and there, and with knowing the thoughts and feelings of the director, well, yeah, it is there, but it's not beating you over the head with it. It's not full on, and the rest of it is, it's just this family. They're a wholesome family. There's a great scene between Jaime and his father, which was fine, and it was good, and you know, and it fits in, and it's a bit formulaic and all that, but it works. Except they didn't really build that up enough. It's just, hey, look, there's his dad. Well, he's gonna love his dad. You gotta have more scenes with them in that relationship explored, to where the ultimate, you know, climax scene here has more to it, and it's just not really there. Now, there's a lot of stuff to cover in a short amount of time and all of that, but that's more building for the character of Jaime, and it needed to be there, and it wasn't. So there's failings here and there. The plot in and of itself is fine, but I think it needed a little more work on just storytelling in that and development and whatnot. But again, uphill battle through no fault of the movie's own, and that's the situation DC has put itself in repeatedly. A lot of people responsible for mostly from past regimes, but Gunn takes responsibility in this as well. What involvement he had with this one, I don't know, but the main thing is where he cut all these movies off at the knees with this strange announcement of the reboot, which no one really understands why. I assumed it was the money. But I don't know. I really don't know what's going on there, and whether there really is going to be a DCU. But if it's just based on the performance of this film, will there even be a Blue Beetle going forward anytime soon? I don't know. If there's another project for Sholo to take on, I would advise him to jump for it. So anyway, it's okay. I didn't knock my socks off or anything like that. But is some people really hating it and stuff? I don't really see that. But I guess in a lot of ways it just never really had a chance, and that's unfortunate. So anyway, there you go. Blue Beetle.